It's funny because I'm going to be talking to a group, but I'm only looking at you. So, my name's Mikhail, and I'm sure you guys have no idea who I am. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on me and what personal branding has done for my life. And then after that, I want to open it up for QA because everybody's going to have kind of their specific questions. But I'll give you kind of a 30,000 foot view of what it's done for me and what I've seen it do for other people, Sabba included, who couldn't be here, who speaks really well on digital portfolios. But again, my name's Mikhail. I am the co-founder and CEO of a digital creative agency in Irvine, California. We're called 712 Marketing. And when I was your guys' age, I was wearing eyeliner and planning my first tattoo, to be honest. But I knew that I was going to be a nurse at one point. And so I started going to school to be a nurse by the time I was a junior in high school. And about 6 months after I graduated high school, I actually got my nursing license as an LVN. In California, it was really difficult to get into any RN programs. So I wanted to go through a bridge program to get my RN. And what happened was, at the time, somebody really close to me actually stole my identity. They started using my nursing license to embezzle a bunch of money from different hospitals and different home health agencies at the time. And before I was old enough to buy a beer, I was served with a $500,000 lawsuit, stripped of my nursing license. And it made it really difficult to get a job because apparently when somebody steals your identity and embezzles money, that goes on your permanent record, and it makes it really hard to get a job, even at Burger King, I found out. So that was kind of one of the big trials of my life. I mean, it went through a point where I was renting the rug doctor down the street to, clean the carpets of the people that on the street of the neighborhood that I grew up on, which was pretty intense. I literally cleaned toilets for like $20 when I was, 20, 21, that type of thing. And then I happened to run into a guy who taught me how to play poker. And this is actually, the poker part is really fun. I mean, this is where I learned a lot about business, but for the context of marketing yourself and digital branding, this is where I also fell in love with Twitter. So when I was looking up hashtag poker, or I started posting the hands that I was playing, it ended up building a community of poker players around me, which was really cool. So I was able to go out to Las Vegas and meet up with people that I've never met before, who kind of showed me the ropes of, what it was like to play full-time and professionally, which is crazy. And in addition to that, I also got some spots, because I used to blog about my poker hands and things like that. And I got some spots on different publications for poker, which was really cool. So that was like one of the steps of my brand. And even now I still talk about my poker days because those were some of the most important times of my life. After that, I found out that I'm a really good poker player, but I'm a really terrible gambler. So I don't sports bet, and I don't play blackjack, and I don't play roulette very well. I mean, I'm in a good place with it now, but at the time, I blew my whole bankroll on table games and sports betting. And my poker coach at the time said, well, you either have to get a job or you're going to go back to school. You pick. So I decided I'm going to get a job. And I got a job in sales. And I really sucked at sales when I started. But I started kind of being mentored by some of the sales managers over there at the company I was working for. And then they actually turned me into a really good salesman. And that was at an internet marketing company, which is, where this started to manifest itself. Is I got really interested in Google search. I got really interested, even more so interested in social media. I was still very active on Twitter when Twitter was a cool thing. And then after that, 3 years down the road, I found out that company actually wasn't doing what they said that they were going to be doing for their clients. I started working in operations. And that's when I started thinking, I can't do this anymore because, they were taking money from small business owners. So I started 712 Marketing. One of my best friends and I started 712 Marketing. It was literally just an idea. And I was like, you know what, this social media thing seems to be kind of interesting. So let's do that. Let's focus on social media marketing. Filed the LLC, and the CEO of that company caught wind of it and fired me, and then sued me for $6.5 million, my business partner and I. Mind you, that was about $6.5 million more than I had. So the first year of 712, I didn't even want to market myself because I didn't want to upset him more and then kind of have him drag out the lawsuit. 18 months later, we finally, it finally got dropped. But that first year was literally like hustling, knocking on doors, talking to everybody I could, making sure that like I was building a community, even with a private profile. But once it got dropped, everything was public and we went full-fledged. And so about 18 months ago, when if not a little bit longer, when the lawsuit did get dropped, I started really focusing on the personal brand aspect of my life. And what that allowed me to do was get the word out there of what I was doing, which is obviously really important. I mean, I started doing it on my personal Facebook. You've probably checked it out a little bit, Dan. And then I used Instagram to start talking about it. When Instagram, even now, I think like long form captions on Instagram, for example, is kind of like frowned upon from like the OGs of Instagram. I started using Snapchat as well to start talking about what I was doing. And what I was doing was really just giving my hacks on what was going on in the social media landscape on Snapchat and Instagram, and now a little bit on Instagram stories. But by really focusing on social media and getting the message out there, letting them know my story, kind of like I just told your guys' story, it's opened up a lot of doors. For one, I mean, the first client that 712 ever booked, we have a monthly recurring model for the most part, and we're kind of changing. But when we started, it was a monthly recurring model. The first client that we ever booked was at $400 a month. By hustling my face off and by building a personal brand over the course of 18 months, we don't even entertain anything less than $5,000 a month now. And that's not because like I'm really cool, but it's more of like a time thing. But also like being a practitioner in what I did allowed me to portray myself on social media as the social media expert in at least Orange County. Like I'd bet some money that like anybody in Orange County kind of knows me as the social media guy, which is, I say that very humbly, but I've worked really hard to get there. But yeah, and now, we have a team of 8 people, which is amazing. My business partner and I get to pay our bills with our business. And then in addition to that, we get to see other people grow within the company and tell this story over and over and over again and inspire other people, and hopefully you guys, to start really focusing on your personal brand. So you guys you said 14 to 16, correct?
To the main office, please.
I bet you don't have a lot of webinars interrupted by an office call being like, oh yeah, could so-and-so come to the office?
No, it's quite all right. But you guys are 14 to 16 years old, from what I find, and I'm assuming social media is a big part of your life. I wish I could see if any hands got. Would you mind like toward the class real quick?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I just want to get a little context on what you guys are doing. So how many of you guys are active daily or at least a couple times a week on Instagram? Sweet. And Dan, if you could like put down the camera a little bit.
Sorry.
So
Tell me when you can see.
I can see. Cool. So you guys are active.
Back up, everybody. Put those hands back up if you're on Instagram.
That's good. On Instagram. What about Snapchat? Active weekly. Cool. 14 is pushing it, but are you guys on Musical.ly as well? Okay, we got a couple on Musical.ly.
I was going to say, I bet there's one individual in here in particular who loves him.
That's awesome. What about Facebook for you guys? Do you guys still use Facebook? Cool. So you guys are active there too. And anybody on Twitter? Sweet. Okay, cool. Well, just to let you guys know, I mean, these different platforms, I mean, it's fun to show, your latest Musical.ly clip. It's a lot of fun to show off like what you were eating for lunch and things like that. But all of those, if you post correctly, could actually be used for a personal brand. And I'll give you a couple examples just from my own experience. My handle is Miqk, like Michael, Igloo, Queen, Kilo. And I've done a couple things with it. For one, Instagram is probably the most important in terms of building a personal brand, is one of the most important platforms that you can use right now. That's where everybody's attention is. That's where a lot of engagement's going on. I think, especially with the release of Instagram stories, it took a little bit of a hit, Snapchat took a little bit of a hit, and now the 40 to, the 35 to 45 age demographic is now involved in stories where those people weren't necessarily on Snapchat. But on Instagram, for example, when you're quote unquote branding yourself, people are, the number one question that I always get is like, I don't know what I should build my brand about. And really, Sabba does a really amazing job of saying this. It's like, well, just think of the three things that you're most interested in, right? So for me, it's actually music. For me, it's the personal branding as well. Like, I love talking about personal branding with you guys or whoever else. And in addition to that, I have a strange affinity with Eggs Benedict, and and now, like, when I just go throughout my daily life, like, there's a song of the day that I always post up on Instagram stories. On Sundays, there's Eggs Benedict, and throughout and everywhere in between, it's really based around how to treat people and building a personal brand around that. When you think of your personal brand, you really want to think of it as, what do I want people to say about me when I'm not around? What can people expect of me when I post online or something like that, right? So it's not really about creating something new. It's just about being yourself. I'm sorry?
We've got Sabba's here.
Oh, Sabba is here.
Hi.
Yay.
I'm so sorry. I have like 20 minutes. So I thought I'd just jump in and say hi.
This is perfect.
All we have time anyway, because Mikhail's gotta be out, and we have to so it works out perfectly.
Yeah. I'll push it a little bit if I have to. It's fine. Sabba, we actually just got to the part about building, like, going through your interests, and then right about to go into the digital portfolio spot, which is really nice because you speak really well on that and I don't. So maybe we can start with, leveraging something like LinkedIn and your interests to make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, my thing is just really short and really simple. And it's basically that there are so many opportunities available to you today. And, I was one of those people that was probably in the spot that maybe many of you are in, where, a lot of people, my parents were always like, oh, go to school, work hard, get good grades, and become XYZ. And before, what we could become, I think, was really limited in terms of our options. Like, we used to think very traditional. I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer or a teacher or a nurse or an engineer. Whereas today, the really amazing thing is you can ask yourself, what am I interested in? And it doesn't have to be just one thing. It could be, I'm interested in fashion, and I'm interested in technology, and I'm interested in people, and I'm interested in having fun, and I'm interested in socializing. I'm also interested in climate change. And how do I now merge these interests together to create a position, or to create a job, or to create a company, or to create a role within a company that will allow me to leverage maybe not all of my interests, but a good majority of them. And I think the best way we do that is by showcasing what we're interested in, by showcasing projects that we're working on. And I think you guys are super lucky to be in Dan's class, because he's actually giving you work to do that's show worthy. And when you organically kind of do that over time, other people find you. And a lot of times I work with graduate students, the college level, and a lot of them are waiting until graduation to start thinking about their resume or their portfolio. Whereas when you start thinking about that at your age now, just imagine how many people you could have networked with by the time you're 22 years old, ready to go get your first job after you graduated college, if that's your plan. It might not even be your plan. You might be like, I'm going to go do this right after high school, or whatever it is that your sort of goals are.
That's a fantastic point about networking. Like, it's starting now and building up those connections.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize LinkedIn is actually open to students 13 and above. But the majority of people who are using it are kind of like, it's kind of seen as like, oh, but that's for my dad. Or that's for like, oh, like this organization. And the reality is, think about all the teachers you're meeting. Think about all the people you might be doing internships with. Think about just your peers. All of you are going to be something someday. How do you bring all these people into your network and begin connecting with them at this young age? Miqk says it really well. Like, he says, build equity in your personal brand. Think of it as like buying a home when you're 20 years old. Like think about the equity that you build if you do something like that. So do that for yourselves and your personal brand. You meet amazing people. You don't want to lose that connection because you never know who's going to land you a job, who's going to be connected to who, and who ultimately might be that person that's going to be able to kind of pave that pathway for you.
And that reminds me, I don't want to share the story now because I don't want to waste any time, but remind me to tell you folks about the mentoring. And Nick, this ties into who I was talking to you about, how some students in my class started getting mentored by one of our guest speakers one day years ago. And now he's helping them each find jobs in digital media and digital marketing. So remind me to tell you guys about that. Okay.
Did you tell them how you met me and Mikhail?
I didn't, other than to say I met them on the internet.
It's normal now.
It wasn't like the most interesting story. Plus, they have to listen to me all the time. So I try to.
But I think it's interesting because me and you especially really connected based on something we were super passionate about, which is design thinking.
Right.
And that really kind of allowed us to like now develop this friendship. We just met last weekend for the first time. And, you know, now we're thinking about doing a podcast together. I mean, we're growing ideas based on something that we're both really, really, really interested in. And we get that choice today. Yesterday, I would never have known you existed. You would have never have known I existed.
Right.
But today we do. And so how do you build that network and how do you build and find those people so that you can create your own circles instead of having to join whatever's out there by default?
Yeah. See, guys, it's not just me saying it.
Yeah. And by the way, I also met Sabba either on Twitter or on Snapchat. Yes. I know that most of the conversations happened on Snapchat, but it started somewhere in the either Twitter or Snapchat world, which is Absolutely. Pretty interesting. And now I get to work with Sabba quite a bit. I actually just Snapchatted that you saved the day like Wonder Woman because I was like, wait, this is where Sabba usually starts talking. You know, real quick, I just wanted to kind of elaborate on building equity in your brand for, you know, just to have that make sense. Look at it like this. Let's say right now you've already decided that you want to be, I don't know, a doctor in pediatrics, right? So on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, anything like that, if you start producing your content, like your photos or your blogs or, you know, even your captions or just even sharing the news on your Facebook about something around pediatrics. And then as you start like going to school and you start working on more projects with this, imagine that if you had, you know, when would you graduate? Like 10, 12 years from now from medical school. If you had 10, 12 years of content based around your interest, like pediatrics, and when you finally went in to get the interview, or when you already did the interview, that the initial part's already done. They already know who you are. They already know that you've been, you know, interested in this in a long time. So it makes that process a lot easier. For me, it's applied with sales, for example, because I've been talking about social media, personal branding for so long. By the time I get to sit down at the table with those people that are interested in using my service or whatever it might be, like, at that point, it's just negotiating the best, you know, the best rate for them type of thing, or the best services. But they already know what I'm about and what I'm good at. So, I mean, if you're interested in photography, if you're interested in speaking or whatever it might be, just start creating content around that. And, you know, and I don't know, it opens up a lot of doors. Like if you were a photographer or a graphic designer and you're really passionate about that, and that's what you put on your Instagram as opposed to, you know, what you ate for lunch, even though that's a part of who you are, but you start doing that, you know, people could start asking you to intern with them. They could start asking you even at the age of 14, 15, 16, like, hey, can you design a logo for me? Things like that. As much as you're, you know, I don't want to go back on what you said, Dan, but I'm actually a firm believer that your brand doesn't have much to do with your logo, and it doesn't have to do much with your color scheme. Even with companies, as the internet forces everybody to be more humanized, your brand is what you say, what you do, and how you make people feel. And that's really what your brand's about. So think about how you want people to feel when you post and when they look at you, and think about, you know, what they want or what you want them to expect of you when you're posting your content.
Yeah, I'm having them do the logo more out of practicing some graphic design skill.
Sure.
more than because it's like the most important thing.
Yeah.
Also, it's like something really concrete, because personal branding for so many people, I mean, it's just like, wait, what?
That's true.
And the nice thing about marketing and teaching English in ninth grade is so much of the ninth grade curriculum is around symbolism and themes and the big ideas and how you can identify those things.
Yeah.
How you can recognize them. And so that's one of the cool things I like about teaching this grade level in particular, and teaching these guys, is that they, like, the ideas that they've had all year have been like fantastic and amazing. So it's a way of like capturing that in a concrete way.
For sure.
Through logos or whatever it is, you know.
Sabba, I think this might be a good spot to open it up for QA, whether it has to do with marketing or personal branding or digital portfolios, unless you had something to add. She's unmuting herself right now, or I don't know if she's still there.
Yeah. Oh, I think I've unmuted her. There we go.
I think the only thing I would add is, I actually just did this with my workshop participants, is just the one thing I would do maybe to recommend start thinking about what am I interested in, what problem do I want to solve, is there's the Innovator's Compass. Have you seen that, Dan?
I know the Innovator's Compass super well. I'm really tight with Ella.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I like that as a starting point to begin exploring those ideas.
And we're going to do the Innovator's Compass on Wednesday when I see these cats' necks, as a matter of fact.
No way. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They're just hearing that for the first time. They're like, the what? And you guys will love this thing. Okay. Yeah. Well, Jackson won't. But everybody else in this room is going to love it. Everybody. Okay, Maddie might not. But besides Maddie and Jackson, everybody's going to love the Innovator's Compass. Even Molly.
Your timer says 10 minutes, but I actually have 20 if you want.
Yeah, it's one of those things where they've changed Zoom from being I think it used to be a 50-minute free to a 30-minute free. So
okay.
So we'll keep it we'll keep it to that 40, and that way I'll even feel better about giving you, like, you'll get some free time and you can like breathe.
I appreciate that. Cool. Well, I don't know if your students have any questions or if you have any questions.
Laura, you got a question? All right, I'll unmute you, Laura.
From when you first showed your...
Whoa. Getting a lot of feedback. Hold on. Nope, I think we're good now.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right.
Go for it, Laura.
So when you first showed your marketing brand, what was like the result you got from it? Like,
for my brand or for our clients?
Just your first brand or whatever you showed first was.
The first result that we got from showing it off, honestly, here it's kind of skewed with us, for example, but because I was talking about digital marketing for so long before I started it, right? So the like in terms of getting the first client, it was relatively easy because they already believed in what I had thought about it. For our clients, for example, the first client that we ever got was actually a restaurant. And so by using Facebook and Instagram to promote the restaurant, they actually did see an increase of 12% in the first 6 months of people coming in, like repeated customers coming in, which was really cool. So building a community around the restaurant, because it was a local place, they just saw, more repeat customers come in, more people talking about it. And over the course of the last 3 years, as really kind of packed their restaurants on the key days that they needed it. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
Other questions, you guys? Other questions? Come on.
Nick Hargrave, please come to the main office.
The office has questions.
What about you, Dan?
No questions. All right, I'll throw. Why is it echoing? Colby, you're not mute. That's why.
Colby's like, oh my god. You're mine. It's annoying. I see my.
All right, let's see. Okay, good. No feedback.
I'll ask a question really quick. So
Yeah.
I'll talk, I actually met Mikhail because I was looking for somebody to help me with my personal brand because, when I was growing up in school, I definitely didn't have a webinar like this, and we definitely didn't have any conversations like this about building your personal brand or pursuing your interests. It was like, do this homework assignment and do this and just jumping through hoops. So being in my early 30s, and wanting to now pursue my interests and kind of move in this direction, I was really confused about where to start. And so that's actually how I ended up meeting Mikhail. But I'll say in the last couple of months that we've been working together, one of the biggest things that I've seen happen for me personally is people starting to see me a little bit differently in terms of the work that I do. So whereas people were like, oh, are you like a social media girl? Like, oh, aren't you teaching? Like, oh, like, what do you do? I feel like it really helped me define who I was and what I was interested in so that other people that might want to connect with me on those interests were now able to do so because I wasn't all over the place. I was really clean and focused and zoned in on this is what I'm really interested in doing.
Mm-hmm. Was that a question?
It wasn't a question. It was asking, somebody else asked the question, I think it was, what's your name? Laura asked the question, and I was saying that was my experience as well.
Gotcha.
With Mikhail.
Oh, I'm not seeing the chats. That's why.
Oh, Mikhail's probably too modest to say that that's what happened to me, but that's what happened to me. So.
Well, that's good. I didn't see the chats, so I don't know where that came from, but that's good. Cool.
So I've got a question just as a practical question. Like if you were going to if you were going to say the one or two things, the one or two choices that you made early on, mm-hmm. that you look back now and go, I'm really glad I made that choice. Like I'm mm-hmm. really glad that early on, because most of this is screwing up, right? Like almost every story is tell about the worst thing that happened, right? Yeah. Tell about the big mistake you made. But what's one or two things that you're like, oh yeah, that was a smart move?
Like in life?
Sure.
Other than
it can be about anything.
Yeah, actually one of the best decisions that I've made is to let's take it really fun, is to get a business partner. And I knew that from my gambling days, my money management wasn't that great. My best friend happens to have his degree in accounting and some other stuff too. So partnering with him allowed me to grow the business. And I think that I would have been more disciplined, but even then just having another force in it to kind of force me to be better about money, because I make most of the decisions, if not all of the decisions that have to do with the money and the direction of the company. So that was the number one great decision, was being able to complement the company by understanding what my weakness is and then putting somebody in place to make sure that that was solid. So that was the number one thing. The second great decision that I ever made, when it comes to this, it sounds cheesy, but honestly, just to take the jump and start talking about the things that I really cared about. So there's so much content that I may have out about social media and, how to use Snapchat for business, that type of thing. But, a lot of my content now is really about interpersonal relationships and then how to treat other people, that type of thing. And that has built such an amazing community of people, Sabba included, you too as well, Dan. It's man, instead of posting about what my feelings are about the election, for example, and instead posting about, hey, regardless of whatever that is, this is how we should treat other people on the daily. Right. That has brought some amazing people together and allowed me to not only develop business relationships, but personal relationships too, that just make my life a little bit better.
Nice.
Yeah.
Whoa. This went from 2 minutes to less than a minute. I don't know what just happened. So you guys are this thing's going to shut us down. And thank you both so much for taking time out of your days.
If they have more questions, just get at us on Twitter, AskMsQ and Miqk.
We can do that. Yes, folks? Yes.
Yeah, I can do that.
Thank everybody with thumbs up or hook 'em horns or whatever. Like, you want to do Nick's giving the like, yeah. The horn? You guys, no University of Texas fans here. So, hey, thank you two so much for today. We really appreciate it, and you will see the fruits of our labors within the next week or two.
Yay! So exciting. Good luck, guys.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. We'll catch you later.
Bye.